Hi class, so we are doing Unit 16 congruent triangles review as per our little class beat, what you guys wanted. Okay, so first one, 3 valid congruency statements given the triangles below. So what you want is triangle, and then you want to put the first one in a certain order is congruent to triangle, and then you have to put the second one in the same order. So what I do is I do 1, 2, 3. So a single arc, a 2 arc, and a 3 arc. And if you do that in the same order both times, 1, 2, 3, then you'll have a great congruency statement. So QPR is congruent to 1, 2, 3, so TUS. All right? And then it says 3, so that's only 1. I went 1, 2, 3. So how about now I go 2, 3, 1. So triangle PRQ is congruent to triangle, I went 2, 3, 1, so 2, 3, 1, UST. And then you need a third one. So how about we go 3, 2, 1. So RPQ, triangle RPQ is congruent to triangle, and then I go 3, 2, 1, so SUT. All right, so those 3 are the way we would draw our triangles there. 3 different congruency statements. All right, so here we are asked to complete each part. So we're showing which sides are congruent, which angles are congruent, and a congruent triangle congruency statement, all from here, all from the congruency statement. So EG, what we do is we look and we see what position E and G are in, and that's first and third, and then we do the same thing over here, HK. And then because it's a segment, we have to make sure we state our congruency statement with this segment in the same order of congruent angles. So HJ are first and second, so we have to do EF first and second on the other triangle. And then angle F right here is congruent to angle J. And we have to make sure we put an angle in front. F is second, J is second. And then angle H right here is the first one, so we have to say angle E is the first one over there. And then triangle FGE, second, third, first, second, third, first. So triangle JKH. All right, so we just make sure we put those in the same order and we're good to go. Number 3, if triangle PQR is congruent to triangle STU, complete each part. So if PQR and STU are congruent, then ST is a side measure, and we know that's right here, and actually mark it. ST, and that's first and second, is congruent to PQ, first and second. So they've been rotated a little bit, so don't let that fool you. What's PR congruent to? PR is first and last, S and U. I like to color code these just so I know for sure what's congruent to what before I start answering any questions. RQ and UT. Those are congruent sides. All right. So side ST right here is going to be the same as side PQ. So that's going to be 7 meters. And then SU is going to be the same as RP. They're both the blue. So that will be 8 meters. And then the measure of angle R, and it's between blue and pink. Those are the 2 angles that are congruent. And we don't know either of them, do we? But if we know T is 75, then Q must also be 75 because they're in the same position, so they're congruent or corresponding parts, both congruent and corresponding parts. So if we add those together and subtract from 180, we're going to know what that is. So we're going to do 59 plus 75, and that's 134. And then 180 minus 134 to get that other angle. So 180 minus 134 is, if you can see that, 46. So 46 is that other angle. All right, so these 2 are 46. And the 59 is P, and P and S line up, so this is 59. Might as well write it in. 59 degrees. So measure of angle R, what did we say that was? 46. Measure of angle Q, 75. And the measure of angle S is 59. Okay, so that's how I would fill those out. And then number 4, what method can be used to prove the triangles below are congruent? So what method, what do we have? We have a right angle, we have a leg, and we have a hypotenuse. So right angle, leg, hypotenuse is HL. Same thing over there. So our legs are congruent. We have a leg, we have a hypotenuse, and then we have a right angle, HL for sure. Next one, what method can be used to prove the triangles below are congruent? Now, we have a side and a side. That's all we know. We don't know anything else. We do, except for we know vertical angles are congruent. But is that really going to help us? Because we have side-side angle going around. SSA. That's a no-go. It is not possible. SSA is not one. Sorry, guys. All right, number 6. What method can be used to prove the triangles below are congruent? Now, we have a side and a side that are congruent in the two triangles, and we also have that reflexive side. Remember, any side that's conjoined, we have part of each is congruent. So with that, we have side, 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 don't we? So side, side, side. Going around, we have a side, and a side. Okay, are these triangles congruent? If Z is the midpoint of YW, what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that the two sides of B on the side of Z, those two segments are going to be congruent to each other. We have a 90, that means this also is 90. And then we have a reflexive side. So we have side, angle, side. So they are congruent, aren't they? Always mark and figure that out. So side, angle, side. And it's not hypotenuse leg, is it? And that's something that a lot of kids have a little struggle with. Every time it's a right angle doesn't mean it's for sure HL. It only means it could be HL. But this one didn't have a hypotenuse for HL. It only had two legs. So we couldn't use HL. But we do have a side angle side scenario where the sides are congruent, angles are congruent, and the sides are congruent. So that's why we use side angle side. So be careful. Don't just automatically think, oh, right angle, it's HL, because it's not always. All right, now we need to line up these angles. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark these two because I know they're congruent. And these don't have an arc, but these are 90. So we can easily figure out our order from that. W, ZX is going to be congruent to YZX. So we just have to set that. I like to just mark it so it's easy for me to figure out which angles are going where in my congruency statement. All right, that's the first page. How am I doing on time? I still have a little bit, so I'm going to try to finish up this back part. Number 8. Now, you are given two parallel lines. I like to mark them, as you know, if you watch the videos, with blue, because those are parallel. And what happens when they're parallel is you have a transversal. This becomes a transversal with alternate interior angles congruent, right? Okay, and then we also know vertical angles are congruent, and we know AE bisects BD. So let's find BD. It's right here. And if that's a bisecting BD, and only BD do we know is bisected, then that means this side is congruent to this side. All right? So we have an angle side scenario. Now, if we want, we can also state these two are congruent. I better do 3, so I already used up 2. So these are congruent because they're alternate interior angles too. So if I were setting this up on my own, I would probably do angle side angle or angle side. But we're going to see what they did here. But I like to mark it just so I know what's going on. Now, AE bisects BD. That bisector gave us a couple of sides that are congruent, so that was nice, but it was given. And that said that BC is congruent to DC. And that's by definition of bisects. All right. And then AB is parallel to DE is given. That's our statement that was given. That allows us to state alternate interior angles are congruent, and it looks like they used B and D, didn't they? They could have used the others, but that's fine. B and D are congruent because they are alternate interior angles, and that's what makes them congruent. Angle ACB is congruent to DCE. These two angles are what they're referencing, and those were our vertical angles, weren't they? So they're congruent because they are vertical angles. Okay, and then triangle ABC then is congruent to triangle ABC. Let's see what we used here. The sides, so we use that, and we use B and D, this angle, this side, and our vertical angles. So it's angle, side, angle. They disregarded these two. They didn't need them, they didn't use them, that's fine. They only did angle, side, angle. All right, I don't think I can do the next two in 15 minutes, which then my time would be up. So I'm going to just go ahead and stop this and upload it and then do the last two proofs in the next video, part 2. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.